I'm Mary Ellen Hannibal, and I'm a journalist and an author, most recently of this book called Citizen Scientist, Searching for Heroes and Hope in an Age of Extinction. And the book is a number of different things. It is an explanation of what citizen science is, which in general terms is regular people contributing to scientific research. It's new in a way, but it's also very old. In the Western scientific tradition, Aristotle was a citizen scientist. Certainly Charles Darwin was a citizen scientist. He had no advanced degree, and he worked for no one but himself. But today, citizen science is turbocharged by smartphone technology and just all of the different kinds of ways we have of monitoring observations of nature. And it's needed as never before because we are seeing ecological collapse on every level around this earth. So we're losing species of plants and animals at a rate and magnitude equaling that which took out the dinosaurs. And we're also seeing a huge reduction in the number of bodies of wildlife, animals, and plants. We're also seeing real perturbations in ecological processes that we depend on, like pollination. So let's take our bee collapse, for example. We're having a bee collapse go on all over the United States for certain and all over the world. What are its causes and what are its implications? So it has a lot of causes, as you know. I mean, there's the pesticides, but there's also habitat fragmentation. So habitat fragmentation just really challenges all kinds of wildlife because wildlife needs to interact with others of its own kind to renew its genetic populations. Mm-hmm. And also many species need very wide territories to roam around. That's part of their life histories. So with bees, for example, though, we need to have bee populations connected with each other across the landscape. Now, how do you connect bee populations across the landscape? Through habitat, through the plants and the flowers that they go to pollinate. So we need a continuous landscape across the terrestrial environment to really keep bee populations healthy. We also we're seeing declines in native bee populations, and native bees, which have co-evolved in our ecosystems, are often outcompeted by what we call exotic bees, which were brought in to do some pollination services. I mean, the European honeybee doesn't outcompete native bees. We have lots and lots of European honeybees, but they are more healthy, in fact, when native bees are also around. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to make sure there's habitat where and when it's needed for bees? Well, that's where citizen scientists come in. So we have projects like the Great Sunflower Project where people can plant a sunflower in a pot on your backyard or in your backyard and monitor that at regular intervals and send that information into this database. And then that database creates a picture of where bee populations are healthiest and where there may be in need of some support. So some support would be making more habitat for them in different places. So the way we get that picture of how bees are doing is my eyes and your eyes making data points, making note, and sending that into a highly vetted database, which the Great Sunflower Project is. Now you can also take bee observations with iNaturalist, which I'm a big fan of. You can put iNaturalist on your smartphone, and every time you see a bee, with that app, take a photograph of the bee, and then it goes into something like a Facebook feed where experts like the people who run the Great Sunflower Project will help identify those bees and what they are. And then we have where that bee is, date, time, latitude, longitude, and a photograph. It becomes the equivalent eventually of a museum specimen and gives us certainty about where that observation is. So we need to know where all plants and animals are in order to support their populations. And in particular, right now, we need to know where the bees are.